Hello again everybody and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Today's video starts the new FSS 727 tutorial series for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So welcome to Miami. We're here in this Amerijet International 727-200 freighter developed by FSS for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today's journey begins with episode 1, cold and dark through to engine start, the usual tutorial style that we have here on the channel to help you get used to flying the airplane with as little stress as possible. So I hope you enjoy today's video. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and of course as always share your thoughts down in the comments below. We're off to Saint Maarten today, and I'm going to, across a number of episodes, show you how to handle this trijet and consider some of its special quirks, being a INS powered old school aeroplane. Now for this tutorial video, those of you who watch my MD-11 tutorials will recognise this as well. Of course I'm using the same profile for this on my Honeycomb Bravo. You want to make sure your throttles are bound to allow the use of the third engine. So engine 1's on the left, engine 2 is on the tail in the middle, and engine 3 is on the right hand side of the aircraft. So with my Honeycomb Bravo with 2 throttle levers configured on this hardware as I speak, throttle 1 controls 1 and 3, and throttle 2 controls engine number 2. With that set, and joining me for the first time in the flight deck, you want to make sure you've configured for a flight to Saint Maarten. Naturally, if you're using live weather, you might not have the same runways in use, and that's okay. You'll just have to tweak that based on the situation that you face and the time you're flying. But in any case, for today, I can show you my SimBrief flight plan. So we're replicating the Amerijet Flight 841 to Saint Maarten. It's going to be a block time of about 3 hours, airtime of 2.5 hours, flying over Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos at 33,000 feet, as you can see. And we've got our route string there in the middle. Now, because we don't have an FMS to use, and we're going to do this using the CIVA INS system, we want to make sure that we've got resource like Navigraph, where we can annotate on the screen and write our sequencing, or you've got a notepad, pen and paper for you to write down all of these coordinates for the waypoints, and they're going to be super important when it comes to inserting those waypoints into the INS and flying not only the SID but the entire route and the arrival into Saint Maarten. Now, to keep things nice and easy, we're going to look straight down, we're going to go to the clipboard and we're going to select it. And you can see here the status of the aircraft at the moment. I've got forward entry, forward cargo, aft cargo, cones, chocks and ground power all connected, and you can see at the bottom the nav equipment set to INS. If you want to use the charts tab, then you need to make sure you've synced that up with your Navigraph account for those who have one. But we're going to then turn our attention to the pre-flight page, and on the top right you want to make sure you have inserted your SimBrief username into that little box, which is covered at the moment for me with asterisks, and then you can load your flight plan, and there it is, imported SimBrief weights Miami to Saint Maarten. And then we can just go ahead and press the play button for load and fuel. If we want to do this instantly, we can just press the kind of fast forward button there, but we're going to leave it working away in the background while we chat about a load of other things. To close the clipboard, we just press in the middle there and it goes away. Down on the left hand side on this little kind of shelf area, we've got a mobile phone. We want to click that now, and it opens up the crew manager, which is a really useful bit of kit. Firstly, scroll down and make sure all of these options here are turned on. As you can see, they are for me. That's going to basically allow the aeroplane to do the flight engineer's job and manage all of that control panel on our behalf. which is super important in an aeroplane that requires 2 pilots and a flight engineer. We're then just going to start at the top and press pre-flight check. And the crew manager will begin to set the aircraft up and prepare it to complete our pre-flight checks and prepare it for our flight. So it will do fire checks, and it will start to turn the battery systems, the electrical systems on as required. And it's worth just kind of watching it really, and you can pick up little bits of the flow over time to then understand what's happening with the aircraft at the start of the pre-flight phase. At the moment, the flight engineer is starting the APU, which is over in that panel there. There it is. You can see the temperature started to increase there, for example. Now the pre-flight check's complete, we're going to begin the CIVA INS alignment, which is down here. We're going to initially turn it to standby, then we're going to turn it to the align tab. We need to turn this click switch down here all the way around to POS. And if we look at the Navigraph charts now, what we need to do is find our current position. So we know by zooming in on the charts, we're on the Amerijet sort of cargo area, and we're at stand November 7. With that in mind, we're going to go into the Miami charts, into the taxi tab, and we need the parking bay coordinates. We need to find November 7. It's not there, it's in West Ramp, is it? Nope. And you'll notice, looking through the charts in the parking bay coordinates, there aren't the November 7 areas, and the West Cargo Ramp is the other side of the airport, which naturally doesn't help us. You can see there, they're the wrong stand numbers as well. So don't get too worried at this point. All we need to do is try and set our position as close as possible. And with that in mind, realistically, the closest we're going to get is probably stand Delta 2 at this moment in time. Which is about there. So with that in mind, we're going to use this value to align our INS. Basically, we're going to ask the aeroplane to look for us within a kind of GPS system. So, north on the left and east on the right. You'll see on the keypad here we've got at 2, we've got N, 4W, 6E for east, 8S for south. What we need to think about now is our coordinates. So, on the left hand side on the charts we can see it's north 2547.9 west 808016.3. So to insert that, we're going to press N first to select N. If it was a southern hemisphere coordinate, we'd press the S to select south instead of north, and then we're going to just dial it in as it's displayed. So 25479. Insert. Then it selects the tab on the right hand side. So here we are currently shown east, but we need to change that to west. So we're going to press 4, and you can see there it changes to west. 080163. And that is physically as close as we can get. We can't get any closer. So we're then going to insert that. And if we turn the wheel here all the way around to STS for status, you can see it's now beginning to align. When it is ready, that ready nav in green will illuminate. You want to get as close as possible to where you have parked. So that's now gone to 05, all the way from kind of 100 basically down towards 0, and that ready nav light has gone green. So that is as good as we're going to get for the alignment. And with that in mind, we can now flick the align icon across to nav, like so. And then the ready nav light goes off and we are all aligned. We can now flick this all across to waypoint. and we're going to think about sorting out our waypoints for the journey today. So again, with the charts, we need to now go to flights, view SimBrief OFP. You can hide the tab there just to increase the size of it a bit more. And we need to think about sequencing on our flight today. So just by referencing the Clara 2, there's a lot going on with this departure. Initially we want to go to Jamba, Gabola, Clara, and then off we go through that transition to BITAC. And each waypoint has its own coordinate. So again, just to bring that OFP back up again, we're going to basically use the Clara 2 to insert the waypoints. And initially, we've only got 9, so if I just flick this carousel here on the INS, we get to 9, and then it resets back to 0. 0 is our current position. As you can see, it's already pre-populated, and 1 is our next waypoint. So we can flick the carousel across to 1 for now. And in our Navigraph charts OFP, we can think about the sequencing of our routes. So let's go for green, so it's nice and clear. Jamba is the first waypoint, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3 for Clara, 4 for Medley. Not too worried about top of climb. And then BITAC is next, so 5, Haggett 6, Calto 7, and we're going to sequence all of them basically. 8, 9. And then we have got Beano Jets, top of descent SLUGO, and then the Aluba 1 arrival into Saint Maarten. So you can see there we've run out of waypoints on our carousel 1 to 9, and as we get to sort of 6, 7, we're going to think about overwriting waypoints 1 and 2 in order to sequence from 9 to 1, and I'll show you how to do that during the cruise tutorial. But to insert these first 9 waypoints, all we're going to do is make sure that our INS is selected on the waypoint tab, which is in the middle, and we start with sequence number 1 on the waypoints. We're then going to begin to insert it as it's displayed. So north 2546.1, insert west is already now pre-selected 080109er. You're going to press 4 for west. Even though it's automatically snapped across, you want to make sure that you are typing it in, and you select west, and then we're going to go 080109, insert. That's the first waypoint complete. We've got to make sure we are super accurate with this, otherwise we won't fly anywhere near our destination. Then we're going to scroll the mouse wheel across to waypoint 2 on the sequence, and we're going to put in Gabola, which is again N 25440. Insert west 080067. Insert number 3. North 25358. Insert west 07942 0. That's for Clara 07942.0. Insert. Always double check what you're putting in, folks. Number 4 north. This is Medley 25109er. Insert west 0783445. Insert, and so on and so forth until you've got all 9 waypoints selected. And with the last one in the sequence, which is Yaya 067264 West, our pre-flight is complete. And you can see there that we've got from 0 to 1, and that's going to be from our current location to waypoint 1, which in the sequence is our current location, to Jamba, which is going to assist with the departure routing. Now, you'll see on the INS we've got at the very bottom, we've got auto and man. We want to make sure that stays on auto, and what that will do is sequence each waypoint section one after the next. So it will do 0 to 1, followed by 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, 3 to 4, so on and so forth throughout the flight. When we get closer to waypoint sort of 7 and 8, potentially, and we're starting to insert the new waypoints into the older sequence buttons, like number 1, we might want to toggle that to manual whilst we do that. But again, we'll go through that during the cruise episode. So that's all done. Of course, if you make any mistakes while you're typing it all in, you can just press clear and it will then reset what box you're in, and you can just start again. With that complete, we're going to press the clipboard and we're going to have a look at our status for the tanks. And it's all done. You can see there are actual weights at the bottom already set up, and the aircraft tab is already done. So again, we can close those items there. We can remove the ground power because the flight engineer has connected the APU. We can make sure the parking brake is set down there. We can close that forward entry door. And I'm going to use GSX to power the pushback for today. Just before we start our pushback then, we also want to make sure that we've got our nav and com stack set up. So we're not going to be using any VORs for today. Therefore, we're not really going to worry about any of those. But if you are using a VOR, make sure it's set into nav1 or nav2, depending on what you want to use. NDBs into the ADFs below that, and make sure your frequencies for any ATC are all preset as required. We're going to set our runway heading, make sure that we've caged the artificial horizon there, and set our local QNH, and the altitude selector dial. We want to make sure we have 5,000 selected for the initial departure, which again, just as a reminder, is going to look a little different now, because actually you can see on the left, 08 left, in the time we've been configuring, the METAR's changed, and actually now it's a 9 knot tailwind, which I don't quite fancy. We're going to use runway 12 instead, which is a 13 knot crosswind right to left, but a 1 knot tailwind instead. So similar taxi, but slightly different on the Clara 2 departure. Still the same waypoint, so we don't need to change anything there. And this time what we're going to have to do is set our runway heading, which for runway 12 is 124 degrees, and I'm going to set that using the heading bug. And if you want to, you can set course to 124, so that you can just make sure that you've really carefully aligned that heading bug as best as possible, because it is quite difficult to see where that is precisely. So we're going to press the pushback on GSX and press the before start checks on the crew manager, which will automatically work through all of your pushback checklist flow. So the flight engineer will check the main gear anti-skid for you and all that sort of stuff. It's worth at that time setting your transponder code to whatever's required. There it is in the middle of the screen. Make sure your navigation lights are on, and your crew manager will turn on the beacon light for you as well. Make sure anything that should be guarded, like the emergency exit lights, are guarded. And then if you have a little look at the pressure panel, the flight engineer, you can see that he's already set, or she's already set, the cruise altitude to 330, the elevation here in Miami 200, and we've got hydraulic system A 1 and 2 both on, hydraulic system B, elec pump 1 on, 2 off, and the APU's looking good there. Have a look through the door, make sure the controls closed and the power master for the main cargo door is closed and guarded, so that's going to isolate the power to that. And just have another quick cursory check of your heading, your course if you're using it, your altitude selection. Make sure you've got your EPA values and your speeds and everything all set. We can pop the heading mode on if we want to, so that we've got the flight director online. And then with GSX, continue pushback. Facing left on Whiskey. So we're going to pop the parking brake off. And depending on the company that you're wanting to replicate or learn from, the start sequence might be different. It's the case in various other aeroplanes as well, to be fair. The way I've been shown it, we'll start 3 first, so there she is, and then we'll start 1, then 2. Some airlines do 1, 2, 3 in that sequence, and some seem to do 1, 3 and 2. So it seems to be company dependent. But once we've pressed that start switch to the ground position, we're going to have a little look at the N2 there. And as it reaches about 20, we're going to move that fuel control lever to the run position. And you can see there that the start sequence temperatures should be 420 degrees. So there's the temperature rising now in the middle. So that's 3 started. Let's close the guard. 1. Ignition mode to ground. Monitor the N2. There goes the low pressure lights. N2's through 20. Fuel control lever to run. There's the temperature rise. N1's starting to climb. .420, that's good. It's worth saying, of course, naturally, I'll set the parking brakes, that you want to make sure that you've got your throttles in idle. So just double check those part of your pre-flight. Even though I'm sure you already have, but it is worth mentioning in any case. Engine 1 is good, that's on and stable. We'll close the guard there. Ignition mode ground. Start engine 2. And again, same principle. This engine's got a slightly higher start temperature there, around 460 degrees instead of 420 on the other engines, as you can see. But again, as it reaches 20%, that all pressure light's gone out, about 15% N2, fuel control lever to run, and we can monitor the temperatures, the N1, N2. And we can watch that fuel flow start to go as well. Up. There's the temperature. We want around 460. But you'll notice there's a big green arc, so don't worry too much if it does rise too high. There you go, just below 460 there, that'll do. So once all those engines are online and stable, we're going to close that guard above, and we're also going to press the after start checks on the crew manager. And that is going to basically allow the flight engineer and the first officer to begin a whole load of after start checks, including sequencing the generators to make sure the frequencies match that of the APU. Really important step, which I might cover on a separate video just in itself to show you what it does. The flight engineer will do that for you by pressing and using the crew manager buttons after start. And then they'll isolate the APU, turn all that off, and you can see there hydraulic system A and B, they're all online now. Stick shaker will be tested, and again it's worth just getting the clipboard out and just setting EPA and trim just to be doubly sure. We can get rid of that. Again, the after start check's still in progress, it will go green when it's complete. And we're going to have a look. So aileron trim is 0, rudder trim 0, trim is set, we're going to set flap 15. For takeoff, first couple of stages move quickly to 5, and then it goes a bit slower to 15 because the flaps start to extend rather than it just be slats. And then we want to make sure we've got the taxi lights on. If we're on ATC, we want to get our clearance, and we can do our control surface checks. And depending on what hardware you've got and the age of the hardware, I've got the Boeing TCA from Thrustmaster. It's only a year old. It's already broken. And I've got kind of a weird twitchy behaviour you can see there. So it's always worth making sure you've done your control checks. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of a kick just to refresh your sensitivities or get rid of, like I had there, some weird bits of behaviour. You'd rather have it on the ground than on the rotation after all. So that's all good. After start checks are done, flaps are 15, they've stopped travelling there. We've got the left flaps in green, and we're going to press the taxi checks, park brake off, and apply a little bit of power to start us rolling. Once we start to get the nose wheel in motion like so, we're going to press the brakes just to test those. You can hear the APU shutting down as well, and we can gently start to taxi. So there you have it, episode 1 cold and dark through to engine start in the FSS Boeing 727-200 freighter for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Join us in the next episode where we dive in, follow on from this episode, covering departure, takeoff through to cruise. Hit like, hit subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments below as always, and I'll see you for the next one. Thanks for watching, take care.